We're going to start out in a standing position. So I'm going to invite you to come into a standing position and stand with your feet about hip distance. And so as we're standing, and we're just sort of weighting ourselves, you know, there's a likelihood that we don't know whether we have an even weight on one side or the other. So just for a moment, just shift your weight to as completely as you can to one side. So there's virtually no weight on the other foot, and then go the other way, virtually no weight on that other foot, and just see for a moment. You know, we can put our feet on two different scales and determine how much weight, and sometimes there can be as much as 5 pounds difference on one side versus the other. As much as I've ever measured when I did that with somebody was like 20 pounds difference. And the person was unaware. So we're unaware of our postures. We're unaware of what our body is doing a lot of the time. And imagine just an extra weight on one side, because that would be a typical behavior, how that could begin to wear us out. So things that we do unconsciously begin to affect us in a big way. Let's start a spinning action. Let's create a movement. And so here's another thing that we were not necessarily aware is how much tension we've been holding in our body. We were just there. We were just, you know, being ourselves, and we start to move, and we start to feel some shifts, some stretches, some areas that are beginning to loosen up a little bit, and also some areas that are not loosening up. And that's important for us to notice, because the persistence of issues means that those have been around for a longer time, or they're new enough that our body just can't let go of them. Very good. Now we stand, feet still about hip distance. We're just going to lift up those arms and toss those arms down again. So we're going to get up and down movement. And that's going to make action happen in the shoulder and in the neck region. Areas that are close together, shoulder close to neck. Shoulders can give us neck problems, and neck can give us shoulder problems. But any problem anywhere in the body can migrate. A problem in the foot can become a problem in the neck. Let your knees go into a bend. Shift that weight back onto those heels. Lose your balance a little bit. Shift that weight forward onto your toes. Lose your balance a little bit. So let yourself experience a moment of lost balance and crouch when it happens. So we're trying to teach ourselves a recovery method called crouching. Lower our center of gravity, to bend our knees so we don't lock tight and throw that head around. Put one foot forward. Let's go to the toes, and when we lose our balance, let's crouch. So it's not losing the balance that's the problem. It's lack of recovering from balance. You know, if you recover your balance from a near catastrophic thing, people will congratulate you. Oh, good job, right? Let's do the other foot forward. And so we give ourselves a minor stress, and we're doing that all the time in our yoga. We're not just sitting there being stress-free. We're creating positive stress. We're creating the kind of stress that's actually going to benefit us, going to make a positive change. Excellent. All right, now let's work with those feet, those ankles. Let's let the weight come onto the inner edges enough to lift the outer edge as much as we can. It'll be hard to do. And then take weight to the outer edges, lift the inner edge again. It'll be a little hard to do. And we go back and forth with that movement. And that very act of movement is going to shift the bony structures. It's going to stretch the tendons and the ligaments. It's going to activate certain muscles that have been dormant. And then we're going to create the beautiful arch for ourselves, the foundation of our body. So we're going to stand across that ball of the foot with an even weight from big to little toe and push the heels very lightly away from each other. And we'll feel this engagement all the way up into the hips. Now let's lift our toes up, and then we'll pull our fingers back. So we'll practice some cross training in the fingers and toes. And then we're going to squeeze those toes down, grip down, and take our fingers into the top and grip them against the top part where the finger joins to the palm. And we go back and forth with that. We're pulling upward and backward, and we're squeezing down. Back and forth we go, creating action that is unusual. And that's all cross-training is an unusual action for the body. Now try it this way. Spread apart those fingers and toes, but keep those heels pushing outward. Squeeze them together tight. If you look down at your feet, you may notice there's not necessarily a lot of land between the toes. You're trying to make more, and if you haven't been using your toes for anything, there's probably been decades of quiet down in toe land. Move big toes towards each other. So muscles that don't get activated become weak, and the brain disconnects from them too. So this is a mind-to-body action through the longest pathway of nervous system. It's no further than from head to toes anywhere else in our body. Push down that big toe, heels pushing outward. Lift the small toes up and down. All right, try not to lift the weight off the small toe side of the foot when you're doing that though. And then the small toes go down, that big toe's going up and down. Yeah, okay. Maybe it's happening, maybe not yet. And now, extra credit, biggest toe down, littlest toe down, 3 center toes, wrangle them up and down. And this is just a function that should be in our feet that we lose when we wear shoes, when we keep feet too passive. But any part of our body that's overly passive is going to lose its form, its function. So now let's stand with that weight across the ball of the foot, heels pressing out, and hips back up a bit. And spine lifts up higher. And our shoulders come a little back and they lower a little down. And we lift through the top of our head. And when we breathe in this time, we lift those arms slowly upward. And when we exhale, we spread those arms slowly out and down. And the idea is for us to get a sense of where we are, how we feel, and then to challenge it a little bit. I want to move to my edges. I want to find the tightness, and I want to push into it gently to see, does the tightness begin to abate, or is it going to hold on even tighter? Is it going to become uncomfortable? And if it's that effect, I'm just going to modify and adapt around it, letting my body slowly change instead of forcing the issue into areas that are not ready to change. And so that's neck and shoulders and upper back and lower back. And now we're going to go to the side. We're going to breathe in. And when we do that, and then exhale, crossing down, we're also going to feel the changes throughout our body. It's not just in the shoulders. There's all sorts of things happening in order to allow this very large range of motion. And we do it to the other way. We inhale, and then we exhale across and down. And then there we do it again. Breathe in. And breathe out. And that's great. Now, lift the chest and the arms up. Lift up the center of the spine. Lift up the side of your chest. And then complete your stretch by reaching the arm. Get that nice long length inhaling. And then exhaling, we release all of that. We lift up our center and our side, and we stretch, we inhale. And then we exhale, we let that go. Again, the center lifts, the side of us lifts, the arm stretches. Inhaling, exhaling, release. Lift up that center and the side and reach that arm. Inhale, that stretch. And then exhaling, let's take our hands, let's interlock those fingers, let's turn out those palms, stretch out those hands. And then bring the arms up, lift up to the chest. Now as you lift, we're going to create a spiral that goes all the way from the legs up and through the palms. Inhale, spiral. Exhale, release that spiral. And then upward we lift, we spiral up and inhale. And then exhale, we release that. And now we're going to lift, but we're going to try and make it length. Now the longer we make it, the more we can create this arch. We don't want to jam our back. Inhale. And then exhale, let those arms go, let them swing. And we're going to lift up the chest and squeeze back the shoulders and shoulder blades. Exhale as you squeeze those shoulder blades tight. And then shoulders go forward. Broad between shoulder blades, inhaling. And then exhale again, squeeze and reach back. And then forward, inhale. And then once again, reach and squeeze back and exhale. And then we're going to release the arms apart. Now step your feet out to about the width of your mat and start that spin again, which already is looser. Things are starting to change. But then we're going to isolate. When we isolate, we go to different layers. We're going to go deeper layers. We're going to lift the chest, turn those shoulders, but we're not going to turn those hips. Now we'll find that this limits our movement quite a bit. But this is a chain of muscles coming down our spine, and we're activating some, but not others. Some are stabilizing us while others are moving us. Now uplift the chest and move the pelvis. Don't move the shoulders. Keep that uplift. Keep breathing too. Good. Now push against your feet and your knees like you're spreading apart wider. Pull in the core more. Lift the chest and let your shoulders lower down. Now we're going to tilt to one side, but keep the pelvis in the center. We're going to lift our chest and our arms, stretching up deep. Inhale. And then exhaling, we're going to lift ourselves all the way up and out. And then we press out the feet again. Belly goes in, chest up and shoulders down. We make a little tilt. We take the chest, the arm, we stretch it upward. Inhale. And then we exhale. We lift ourselves all the way up and out. Now we're going to make a wide stance. So take your feet out wider. And in this stance, gain that arch of your foot again. And create a little bend in your knee so you got a nicer crease right here in the pelvis. So we're going to lift our chest up and put the heel of the palm right into that crease and tilt a little forward. Now on one side, as we press, the goal is to get the arms straighter, maybe not completely straight, and every bit of straightness lengthens that side of our spine. Let's take a deep inhale. Exhale, let that elbow bend. And now the other side, we begin the pressure. We begin to straighten that elbow. We take it to a comfortable point. Take a deep inhale. Exhale, the elbow bends, and now both sides. Now when we press as equally as we can, both sides, we create traction, full elongation, decompression of our spine. Take a deep breath in, and then as you exhale, bend your elbows, bend your knees, and bring your hands all the way down. Now very slowly shift your weight to one side, and as you do, straighten the other leg enough that you feel some stretch in your inner thigh region. Keep it comfortable, breathe deeply. Hips can be high or low. We go across the other way, and we create a gentle stretch, breathing deeply. To that first side again we go, just keeping the stretch comfortable. And then side two once more. Good. Now we'll come to center. We're going to lift up our hips enough that we feel a gentle stretch in the back of the leg. So keep the knees in a comfortable amount of bend. Gradually let your head and shoulders hang if you can. And then let the head and shoulders sway from side to side if you want to create variations in the stretch you're feeling. Good. Now leave one hand down, bring the other shoulder up and then toward the back to create a twist. Push out into the feet for stability. Pull your chest forward away from hips for length. And if you want, you can take your arm, your opposite arm up and stretch. Breathe nice and deep. And then exhaling, we'll twist the other way, hand coming down. The other shoulder lifting. We press out to the feet. We lengthen, chest reaching forward. The arm could stretch up. We breathe in. And then exhaling, we come to center and we bend our knees and we put our hands up on those knees and we lift our chest up. Now we've created an angular change. And as we twist across, it's going to create quite a sensational change. You will feel things happening in the shoulders, the rib cage, the low back, the pelvis, the inner thigh, etc. And then we'll go across the other way into our stretch, just keeping that deep breath. And then we do it first side again. But this time as we go into the stretch, we hold a moment, we inhale, we open those ribs wide. Exhale into center, we reach across the other way. We hold it a moment, we open those ribs, we inhale nice and deep. Exhaling, we come onto center, we bend our knees, and we come up out of that. Okay, good. Now we've done all this preparation, this action, and we're working to make our body more capable of doing the sequence of poses, the sun salute. But remember, sun salute is pretty hard to learn at first. Your body may or may not want to do everything, so be willing to adapt. If you're not ready for the sun salutes, just watch what's going on. Do a few things separately from the whole flow of things. You'll catch on, no worries. Let's start at one end of the mat though, because we're going to make a step that takes the leg fully back, and so give yourself plenty of room. And stand with those feet hip distance and create that arch, weight across the ball of the foot, heels pressing out. Hips back, spine lifting, shoulders back and down, chin level. Let's breathe in and lift up our arms. And as we begin our exhale, we'll grab our elbows, bend our knees, and bring the chest down. Now, you could keep the elbows up on the knees and just pull forward, or ribs to thighs, lift the hips a little more, let the head and the arms hang. We adjust the stretch in the back of the leg with the lifting or lowering of the hips and bending of the knees. And if we can get the head and the arms to hang, and just completely hang, we'll decompress the spine. We can add variation to that, just swaying back and forth, breathing deeply. Now on this exhale, place your hands down. We're stepping our right foot back, so it's into lunge, leaving that left knee directly over the ankle. We're going to lift up the right hip and bring balance across the ball of our foot. Our heel reaches back to stretch the calf. Our chest and shoulders pull forward to lengthen the spine. We're going to hold that arch in that left foot. And using light pressure on our hands, or if we want intensity, one or both arms can stretch forward. Take a deep breath. And on your exhale, flatten your hands evenly, step back in your plank, and tighten up your abdomen, pull in your navel, and lengthen. Your chest is reaching forward, hips and heels stretching back. Inhale. Exhaling, softly lower down your knees, and move your hips back toward your heels. Let your elbows and your forehead come all the way down. Now in this position, we breathe into the belly, and we can sway our shoulders side to side. And then we can come a little more forward, shoulders over those elbows, and we can sway our hips from side to side. Or, if we want, bring the knees close together and pivot from side to side, getting more action in the side of the waist. Now let's flatten the top of the feet. Press the hands evenly. We're coming forward to the pose, upward dog. Shoulders traveling forward to the wrist, collarbones lifting as we sink the hips. Hand pressure even, top of the foot pressure even. Lift those collarbones up, inhale. And now exhaling, we move back to downward dog. Lift up your hips and push your chest steadily toward your thighs, flattening evenly through the palms and bringing your head between the arms. You look at the ball of the foot and you balance on it evenly. Lift up your heels, bend your knees. Lift up your hips, keep pushing your chest steadily toward your thighs. Shoulders should be broad, and if you like, you can paddle one heel down at a time to increase the stretch you're feeling in the back of the leg. Breathe deeply. And on this exhale, we'll step our right foot forward to lunge, but you could bring your left knee down first to help you adjust the right foot far enough forward, knee over ankle. Lift up the left hip, balance the ball of the foot, heel reaches back, chest and shoulders pull forward. Right foot holds its arch. There's a light pressure on the hands, or one or both arms can reach forward. Take a deep breath. And on exhale, let's step forward, our feet hip distance. Now push down into those heels, bend your knees, and pull your belly tight. From the squat position, we inhale, lifting up, and exhale. Round 2. Inhale up. Exhaling, grab the elbows, bend the knees, chest coming down. Now this time, our elbows are going to be forward against the shins. We fold the hands and bend our knees. Our head rests like a skier's stance. Press your arms into your legs. Move your ribs toward your knees to lengthen your spine. But also pull your shoulders toward hips. Release your neck. Press your feet and your knees outward to engage your outer hip. Breathe into your upper back. So that's a lot to do, but we do it all. Hips lifting, breathing deeply, and exhaling, place hands, and step your left foot back. Now this lunge is going to become a side angle. So we're going to let our left heel roll down, lift our left shoulder up, and bring our right elbow up and onto the knee. We want to move our hips more into the center of the mat, as well as our shoulders, and we want to move our right knee toward that right edge. We want to feel the outside of the right hip become engaged. Now let's make more length. Pull the right shoulder away from the hip, and then in your feet, feel the arches. Left foot, little toe to heel edge should be pressing vibrantly on the floor. Now, we could bring our left arm behind our back to lift our shoulder higher. And if we wanted more intensity, we could take the right arm and stretch it forward. Take a deep breath. And then on the exhale, let the hands flatten, stepping back in a plank. Tighten up your abdomen, pull in the navel, and lengthen. Chest reaches forward, hips and heels back. Inhale. Exhaling, softly lower down the knees. Hips go back toward heels, elbows and forehead down. But let's walk our right hand more forward. The goal is to bring the ribs a little forward of the knee so that we can sway out to the right and bow the rib out into a stretch that we feel along the right rib cage. Now, every breath, I want us to breathe to the right. And each time we do, we expand the ribs. That's a movement created by the muscles between the ribs. It's the movement of the joints. It's a little bit more stretch of all that surface structure. And it is making that right lung field expand more. This is training that lung to accept deeper and deeper breaths. Now on this exhale, we bring the chest to center, the hands even. We're going to do it on the left side. So we walk the left hand forward, flatten the palm, and we sway the rib cage to the left comfortably. And we feel the stretch, and every time we breathe, the stretch gets a little bit more. And so all the action is designed to help us focus the breathing using certain respiratory muscles, stretching the things that need to get stretched so that we will have a deeper breath. Exhaling, chest to center, hands even. Now we'll slowly come forward to upward dog. Shoulders travel forward to the wrist. Speaking of upward dogs, collarbones lift as the hips sink. Hand pressure and foot pressure even. Lift those collarbones. Inhale. And then exhale, we'll go back to downward dog. Lift hips and push your chest toward your thighs. Now, palms flattening evenly, thumbs pulling toward the feet, head between the arms. Get the balance on the ball of your foot. Lift up your heels. Bend your knees. Lift up your hips. Push your chest steadily toward your thighs. But let's make our shoulders more active. Let's pull the shoulders toward the hips, and this is the action of our lat muscles. Let's press our hands and elbows toward each other, and that's the action of the pectorals. Let's make the space between the shoulder blades wider, and that's serratus anterior. We want to do it all, and lift our hips, and also push our chest toward our thighs, and if we want, we can paddle our heels up and down. Deep breath, and then on this exhale, we'll step the left foot forward to lunge. Remember, right knee can come down if you like. And then from lunge, side angle. That right heel's going down, right shoulder lifting, left elbow up on the knee. But hips go into the center of the mat and left knee toward that left edge. And we lengthen the left side, shoulder away from the hip. And we make sure the right foot, little toe to heel edge is pressing. And we have the option of bringing the right arm behind the back to lift the shoulder, and the option of reaching the left arm forward for intensity. Take a deep breath. And on exhale, we'll step forward, feet hip distance. Press down, heels, bend those knees and belly tight. We inhale up from the squat and exhale. Now one more round. Inhaling up. Exhaling, grab the elbows, bend the knees, chest coming down. Get your arms either up on the knees or head and arms hanging. Bend those knees comfortably and focus on your feet. First, create a good arch and lift your toes. And press your feet and knees so steadily outward you gain a very strong action in the outer hip region. And while you're doing this, if the head and arms are hanging, you're decompressing the spine all the way to the structure of the center of the pelvis. And that's going to help us mildly shift those bony structures and help us create greater alignment in the pelvic structure. Take another deep breath. Exhaling now, relax the legs, place your hands, step your right foot back and bring your right knee immediately down into a low lunge. Let the top of the foot rest. We're going to turn this into a twist. Place an even pressure onto the right hand and your left hand to the knee. Now you can just turn already into the twist, or if you want more intensity, lift the hips a little, twisting first, then sinking the hips back down again. Tighten up your right seat muscle. Lengthen the right side. Breathe into the right side deeply to release. And then exhaling, placing down those hands. Let's step back in a plank. Tighten the abdomen, pulling in the navel as we lengthen. Chest is forward, hips and heels back. Inhale. Exhaling softly, lower down the knees. Hips back toward heels, elbows and forehead down. Now push against your palms, make them flat, and lift your elbows up and work to squeeze your shoulder blades tightly together. This is the action of your rhomboid muscles, the muscles between the shoulder blades. And while we're doing that, we're breathing into the belly, and we're experiencing a pretty strong contraction. Breathe deep. Now on this exhale, put those elbows down and press those elbows down. Press and try and lift the space between the shoulder blades upward, widening apart the shoulder blades. And that is the action of our serratus anterior muscle. We can actually breathe into that upper back space as we're doing this. And then on this exhale, we come slowly forward to upward dog, shoulders traveling forward to the wrist, the collarbones lift as we sink down the hips. Hand and foot pressure even, lift those collarbones and inhale. And then exhale back, downward dog, lift hips, and push the chest toward those eyes, palms evenly flat, head between the arms, balancing on the ball of the foot. We're going to lift our heels, bend our knees, lift our hips, push the chest toward our thighs. We pull shoulders toward hips, press hands and elbows toward each other, make it wide between the shoulder blades. We could paddle the heels up and down, or if you wanted more, you could shift the weight to the right side, lift the left foot up, or lift the left leg, stretch it all the way up, breathing deep. Left foot can come down, shifting weight to the left, lift the right foot up, or lift the right leg all the way up, breathe nice and deep. Exhaling, right foot coming down. And we're going to step right foot forward, left knee down, but if you wanted to bring the left knee down first, that's fine too. Let the top of the left foot rest in our low lunge, and then we make it a twist. So it's an even pressure to the left hand, right hand to the knee. We can twist straight over, or if we wanted the intensity of it, we just lift a little, then twist, sinking the hips. Tighten up that left seat muscle, lengthen the left side, breathe in the left side deeply. And then exhaling, we step forward. Feet hip distance. Press down to the heels, pull your belly tight. And from that squat, inhale up and exhale. Well, now that's great. And let's lengthen our spine. It's something that we need to constantly concentrate on. So take those feet nice and wide. Lift up the chest and bend the knees a little bit. Put the heel of the palm right in that crease and tilt forward. Now on your right side, work to straighten that elbow, and maybe it goes a little straighter. Maybe you can lengthen a little more. Take a deep inhale. Exhale, the elbow bends, and then left side, we push, we work to try and get that arm straight. We might be warmed up that we're able to lengthen any more. Take a deep inhale. Exhale, the elbow bends, and now both sides. We push, we straighten, we traction our spine. Take a deep breath. Exhaling, bend elbows, bend knees, and we come up out of that. Now it's really important to maintain the length of the spine, because that is like the superhighway. The information coming from our brain travels through the spinal cord and reaches these spinal nerves, and then travels in smaller and smaller thoroughfares to every structure of our body, be it a muscle, be it a joint, be it an organ. And it's the information, and it's that flow of information back and forth that is our health. It's the first very vital aspect of creating a healthy body. And when we compress our spine or we allow it to change, we're just letting ourselves, collapse into it, just compressing it. Earth's gravity force compressing us like a soda can. That's a problem. And it begins to cut off the information of brain to body and body to brain, and we begin to alter and change actually rather rapidly. And so, we can lift it, but there's another way to create length and to create action, and it's to liberate the muscle structures that are in the spinal structure that actually are long and respond very well to twists. Now, we've already done several twists. Twists are found throughout many different yoga poses, and we're going to isolate and work with a few of those. And so let's go back to this. Let's just let the arms turn, and I'll tell you that although some of that twist is happening in the spine, a lot of it's happening because of the movement that we're creating all the way down into the legs. Now, each person is different, and we're all on this, this pathway that we've been traveling, and we've got some changes in our body. And so you may or may not be able to move as easily in certain places. But let's study it again. Just as we stand with the feet about hip to shoulder distance wide, uplift the chest and see, can you turn your shoulders without moving your hips? Can the shoulders turn at all? Now, if you're not paying attention and your whole body's turning, well, okay, we don't need to show that we can turn. We need to show that we can turn one thing and not the other. We're showing it to ourselves. All right, we're just finding it. And we may find that we can turn more one way than another. Now, in the center, we try and pivot the pelvis without moving the chest. Now, your brain's going to think, no, these two go together. They don't have to. We might often turn them together, but they don't have to. And the more we isolate, the more we get used to it, the more our brain will accept this action, the more our body will say, oh, okay, this is something we do. But every time we change our posture, every time we do anything, the brain has to go, wait a minute, you've changed everything. And we have sometimes, in even the very muscles that are responding. So let's do this. Let's put one foot forward of the other foot. I've got my left foot forward and my right leg back. Now, I want to turn my shoulders and I don't want to move my pelvis. Now that might hold me more honestly with the pelvis not moving, or maybe I'm moving everything and I'm feeling it down in my knees, and that's one of the problems. If we can't move our spine, we begin to move our knees more. We begin to damage our knees. So sometimes a knee problem is actually a problem, a lack of rotation within the spinal structure. But now we'll uplift. We always keep a nice length. And we pivot the pelvis. We can move the pelvis without moving the shoulders. And it does, yes it does, make us move our knees a little bit. Okay? Let's try the other foot in the forward position. So we'll have a right foot forward, left foot back. And you say, oh, this is going to be exactly the same, except it's not. I'm going to turn my shoulders, and I'm going to feel the resistance, and just because I have one leg forward and one leg back, it's going to create differences. There's going to be interference, there's going to be patterns that we didn't even know we had. Now try and turn the pelvis, and don't move the hips. Okay. Now this is really great because this means that we have a lot of freedom. That basically, from the navel upward versus the navel downward, we've got a different interface, and we can create changes and modifications based on that. So let's use one of my favorite poses to play with this is the triangle pose, because it is a pose that makes us twist. But if we set it up just right, we're going to have a lot of chance to work with ourselves and create a really nice activation and get some different effects. So we're going to start at one edge of the mat. We're going to be stepping our right leg a comfortable distance back. So we're standing with the feet about hip distance, and we step our right leg back a very reasonable amount. Now the thing about it is when I step that leg back, I don't want to end up with my legs in one single line. I do not want to be on the tightrope, okay? I need to have some hip distance so that I can maneuver my pelvis, because if I'm on the tightrope, I'm already having my pelvis maneuvered for me. So make sure that you got a little bit of scap there, nice little stance where your pelvis could move. And make sure you've got those beautiful arches, the weight across the ball of the foot and the heel slightly pushing out. That right foot turns about 45 degrees. Okay, so let's study this. So pelvis can move without moving the shoulders. Maybe it's hard to do. Here's your brain goes, they're supposed to move. Shoulders can move without moving the pelvis. And again, if you lose your balance, you might be too narrow. It's all right. But now we're going to manipulate these areas independent of each other and find that perfect posture for ourselves. Let's start by tightening our thighs, nice and firm from knee to hip. Let's engage the core, pull it inward, lengthen the chest upward. And we'll bend forward through the hips without rounding our back, and we will stop when that left front leg says, oh hey, I'm stretching. We don't need to go very low. So what we're going to do is we're going to bring both of our hands onto the left leg. And our chest right now is facing the floor. Now don't move the chest, just the right side of your pelvis. See if you can pull it back a little bit. Inhale as you do it, and then exhale, let it go forward. And then we try again. We inhale, we attempt to pull it back. At first the brain might not even know how to do this. Exhale, let it go forward. And then once again, we inhale, we pull it back. Exhale, we bring it forward. And we find that best place where it feels the most natural. Now leave your left hand down, keep your pelvis still, and inhaling, lift your right shoulder up, hand goes to the hip. Exhale, put it back down again. And again, inhale, pull up. Exhale, down. Now this time, as we inhale and we pull the arm up, let's just reach that arm backward. Let's stretch it back, lengthening the left side toward the front of the mat. Let's take the arm outward. Let's reach it out and pull the chest back. Let's take the arm forward. Let's reach it forward and stretch the side. And now let's take the arm up and let's lift it toward the ceiling. But at the same time, pull the chest toward the front of the mat. Tighten the thighs. Take some deep breaths. And on this exhale, we pull ourselves all the way up and out. Okay, good. Let's do this on side two. So we set it up. There's no one single way to be in a pose. Everything is based on what are you trying to get out of that pose? What are you trying to do in that pose? All right, so we start again. Our feet are about hip distance wide. We're going to take our left foot and step it backward. Whatever the stride distance back that seems good. Legs are going to stay straight. Make sure we've got a little bit of gap. The left foot's angled about 45 degrees, and the pelvis can move a little bit. All right, so in this position, without moving our shoulders, we're going to try and pull back the left side of the pelvis, push it forward. You may or may not have a lot of movement, and it's okay, whatever you find. It may be hard to disengage upper and lower. That's fine. Keep the chest lifted. See if you can turn your shoulders and not move your pelvis. It's not the same one side versus the other. We gotta figure it out. What's our limitations? What's our ability? And then we're ready. All right? We're going to tighten up our thighs. We're going to pull in our core and lift our chest upward, and we're going to bend at our hips a bit. And as soon as that right leg says, hey, 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 you're making the back of my leg stretch, then we're just going to take both of our hands down the leg to stabilize. And it is this left side of our pelvis we're going to focus on. As we inhale, we're going to try and pull it upward and backward without moving the chest. Exhale, let it go forward. And we'll do it again. Inhale, pulling back. Exhale, forward. And once again, inhale, pull back. Exhale, put it in the position that seems like, oh yes, best place. Now leave your right hand down and your left shoulder. You're going to inhale, pull it up, hand to hip. Exhale, put it back down again. Inhale, pull up. Exhale, down we go. And once again, inhale, pull that chest up, but then take that arm and stretch it backwards. Stretch between the neck and the shoulder. And then take the arm outward. Stretch out but pull back. Take the arm forward. Stretch and stretch that side. And then point that arm up and lift the chest, but reach your chest also towards the front edge of the mat. Breathe in nice and deep. And then exhaling, lift yourself all the way up and out of that. And then come out of that. And that's great. And that is a very, very nice twisting action pose I really like. But you know what? It doesn't always satisfy us because there's a lot of balance to it. And if we have some stuff going on in our hamstrings or something like that, it can be annoying. So another pose I really like and one we modify all the time is a seated pose, a very simple twist. And so we'll sit down. We're going to sit down and do this twist. And so as we sit, our mat is going to assist us because it's going to let us line up our feet on the mat. And we're going to have a lot of movement. But before I create that movement, I'm again going to explore the concept of me moving my pelvis independent of my shoulders. So here I sit, and I'm just going to take my left side of the pelvis. I'm just going to move it a bit forward and then a bit backward. And my right side's not doing anything. And so my left side, again, I move it a little forward and I move it a little backward. And I like the number 3, so we'll do it again. Forward it goes, backward it goes. Okay, now I'm going to do that with the right side. I'm going to move it a little forward, move it a little backwards. This is a movement I call the shimmy. Right? So we're shimmying forward, and we're shimmying back. And we'll do it once more. Forward and back. Okay. So we're going to be making movement of the pelvis and movement of the shoulders. Now, We're going to lengthen, lift the chest, and we're going to let our legs go to the left side. So the outside of the left leg is going to come down and the inside of the right leg. And what we're going to do is we're going to form this lovely little zigzag with our leg pattern here. So that we're sitting completely on the left hip and the right side of the pelvis is actually pulled away from the mat right now. Our right arm starts, back behind us, but we're going to put it on our left knee and we're going to move our left arm comfortably away so that we're leaning to the left, lengthening the left side. Now I'm not in a twist, I'm sort of just leaning sideways right now. I'm going to make the twist first with just the shoulder. I'm going to move my shoulder into a twist toward the left, inhaling, right hand on that knee, exhale, I release. Now it doesn't have to be any particular amount. So we just move with the inhale, and then exhale, we come out. And then we do it again. Inhale, we move that shoulder, and exhale, we come out. Now here's the right side of the pelvis. This shoulder is going to stay still. You may or may not get a lot of movement, but you're going to inhale, you're going to try and sink that pelvis backward, like you're going to sit on it again, and exhale, move it forward. That's that shimmy movement. And inhale, back it goes, and exhale, forward. And again, inhale, pull it back, exhale, push it forward. Good. Now let's bring both of the hands down. Although, if being like this is more comfortable, stay like this. And then we can pull our arms away, and as we pull, we create more twist. But you know what? If you can, bring your left elbow down, bring it down so it's under your shoulder, you're not really short to the waist, so you're using that to lengthen. So I'm again leaning, I'm more sideways than I'm in a twist, my right hand's just right here, and the right side of my pelvis can move a lot. I can pull it back a lot and push it forward a lot. And so we'll do that a couple of times. Inhale, pull it back, shoulder stays still, exhale, push it forward. And then we do it again. Inhale, pull it back, exhale, push it forward. I can pull on the left side, but now I can create more twist. I can walk my right hand forward, turning my chest more toward the ground. Now, you might be working with that, and that's about as much as you can get, just walking the arm forward. Or you might be able to bring your right elbow down and your chest turn completely towards the floor, nice space between the shoulder blades. So whichever position's more comfortable. But as you pull toward your fingers, and you try now to move the right side of the pelvis and pull it back, it's barely going to move. We're in such a twist now. Inhale, a little bit of stretch. Exhale, forward. And then we do it again. Inhale, just a little bit of stretch, more. Exhale, forward. And then once again, pull back, one more inhale. Exhale, go forward. Okay, good. Push under those palms, walk your way back to your body. Lift yourself back up again. Let's go to the neutral position, and we're going to repeat. Okay, so the feet and knees are nice and wide. We're lengthening. We know that we can shift one side and the other side. We've already proven that to ourselves. So elongate, and now let the legs go to your right side. So the outside of the right leg comes down, inside of the left leg comes down. You might have to just readjust until you get the lovely zigzag pattern and you're completely sitting on your right hip. Okay, so we want the left side of the pelvis uplifted in this pose. And our arms start back behind us, so we're going to take our left hand to this right knee, and our right hand moves a little further to the right, and we lengthen, but we're just sort of sitting to our side. We're not really twisting yet, and so we're going to move the left side of our pelvis. We're going to pull back, inhale, and then exhale, push it forward. And we do that again. We pull it back, we inhale, exhale, forward, and again, inhale, pull back, exhale, go forward. Okay. Now, we're going to use the shoulder. We're going to move forward, inhale, exhale, pull it back. And again, forward shoulder, inhale, exhale, pull back. And once again, forward shoulder, inhale, exhale, pull back. Okay, so we isolated those areas. Now, both hands on the mat if that's comfortable for you. Walking out a little bit, pulling the chest away from hips. The right elbow coming down under the shoulder, so we're long on this right side. Pulling toward the fingers. The left side of the pelvis should be able to move a lot now. Inhale, pull it back. Exhale, push it forward. Always pay attention to your sensations. Inhaling back. Exhaling forward. And once again, the pull back with the inhale, the exhale going forward. Okay. Now we're going to keep pulling along that right side, and the left arm is allowed to walk forward, and that might be just as much turn toward the floor as you can get, or maybe the left elbow can come down onto the shoulder. We, in whatever position, pull toward fingertips, and then we try and move the left side of the pelvis. We inhale to pull it back. Exhale, let it go forward. Again, the pull back, inhale. Exhale, forward. And one more time, the inhale, pull back. Exhale, go forward. Nicely done. Push onto those palms. Lift yourself back up again. I want us to be in a seated position. I'm going to check on my time and see just how much more fun I have with you guys. Okay. So we're going to sit, we're going to release our neck and our shoulder area. You can sit your hips up on a bolster. You can sit on a block. You can sit on the floor. But when you sit, you want to uplift your body. And your legs can be in a variety of positions. You can sit in a chair. That's sometimes the very best thing to do in a situation, so that you sit where you can sit in a way that does not cause you extra discomfort in your ankles, knees, hips, or lower back. And we uplift when we sit down so that our spine is naturally pulled a little bit toward the navel, and we sit more naturally onto our sitting bones. Now, even though we've been doing a lot, let's warm up the shoulders a little more for the next stretch. We're going to roll the shoulder forward and back on one side, and then we're going to do that on the other side. So we make this big kind of circling movement, swimming or modern dance kind of movement. We go one way, and then we make that movement the other direction. And that sort of loosens up some things, and it's noisy too, because noise is the sound of things being out of balance, and that's, you know, that's our lives, right? Arms are going to turn in and turn out. And so there's a potential of twist in the upper body that we need to work on, and it has a lot to do with the ability to release that shoulder blade. You know, we can turn, if we uplift, we can turn a little bit our rib cage, but there's also some movement that we can create with the arms to additionally add to some stretches. So we're going to start by taking our arm hand to a shoulder. Now, there's an active range of motion that we have, and then there's a passive. So I'm going to actively reach my elbow across my body, but a little bit low. And then I'm going to take my other hand and I'm going to pull and stretch in sort of a downward position. And I feel that stretch in between my shoulder and my ribs. And then we release out of that. Now we're going to take that same arm, but we're going to lift it up to about the height of the shoulder. And we're going to reach it across, and then we're going to pull a little bit parallel to the floor. Take a deep breath, and then exhale, release that. And then we're going to have the arm up a little higher, and we're going to reach more in the direction of the ceiling, and we're going to take our arm, and we're just going to pull just a little bit of stretch up. Exhale, relax out of that. So you probably felt different angles, and the angles of the arm are representation of angles of fibers of muscles and joints and tendons. So we want to get all of those angles. Now, hand coming to the shoulder. I'm going to start with a reach that's rather low, and then I'm going to pull, gently pull, and then release. I'm going to come up to level, reach across, and I'm going to pull, and then release. Now I'm going to take the arm up a little higher, and I'm going to reach a little higher, and I'm going to pull with a slight upward direction. And you may have felt a difference on one shoulder versus the other. Often our issues, our stretches, they release, they show us some knitting in or some adhesive quality of previous issues, injuries, inflammations that have never completely resolved. Now that was twisting a little forward. We're going to make a backward twist of our shoulders and chest. And to start this off, I'm going to take my hand and I'm going to make that circling movement that goes across the lower part of my pelvis, up into the rib cage and around like a clock, either clockwise or counterclockwise. We're going to make this nice little circle. We do it in one direction. We're just loosening some things up. And then we'll do it the other way. Because we don't take our arms behind our back very much at all. Now put your hand in the very middle of your back. Lift up your chest, lower down that shoulder, and then just see how far back you can bring that elbow. You may be able to move it far or not. And I'm going to try and slide our hand over so it's coming toward the other side of the body. And if you can have your other hand grab fingers or palm and either hold it into place or pull a little more slack out, that's fine. But once again, the arm that's behind us, we're going to lift the chest, lower that shoulder down, reach that arm backward. Now we've got as much as we can get out of the shoulder. Let's lift up our head, and I want us to lean it in one direction. And it doesn't matter which way, because we're going to go both ways. Just breathe into the stretch you've created. And then relax, lift up the head, and lean it the other way. Breathing deeply. And then relax that, and let it all go. Now that shoulder is like, yeah, I'm about 1,000,000 miles back from where I was. So let's create that same release on the other side. Start low on the pelvis, go across and up and around. Nice circling movement. And then we're going to go the other way. Okay, we're going to leave our hand in the middle of our back. And we're going to lift up our chest. Hello, Libby. Lower the shoulder down and let that elbow pull back a little bit. Now the hand can come around, and we'll use our other hand, much to Libby's dismay, to hold. And again, we'll lift the chest up, the shoulder lowers, the elbow pulls back, and then we lift our head, and we lean our head in one direction. Breathe in nice and deep. Relax. Lift the head. Lean the other way. Take a deep breath. And then release that. Great. And we're ready. Now we've set up. We've removed restriction. And we're going to be pulling backward and pulling forward. So I want one hand to pull back and the other hand to push across. And I'm going to reach them both, elbows straight, low. You can't really see my back end now. You can. A little low. And then I'm going to come, hand pulling back. One arm goes forward, the other arm goes back and straightens, and we twist and we reach low. All right, keep that chest lifted. Now I'm going to be up a little higher than I was, somewhere between where I was and my shoulder. Arm reaches forward, the other arm comes back somewhat higher. Can't go very high. Stretch and release. And then stretch and release. Now we're going to focus on the height of the shoulder. So we're going to come across. Now the lower arm's still going to have to stay below the height of the shoulder. It can't come up that high. Stretch and release. And about the height of the shoulder, and stretch and release. Now we're going to go up a little higher. With that upper arm, the lower arm's not going to be able to go up any higher. Stretch and release. Stretch and release. And finally, we're going to, with the upper arm, stretch as high as we can. Stretch and stretch. Good. And not only does that put us in a nice twist, it also reduces some of that tension that can build up in our upper back from seated postures. Very good. Now we're going to take these twists and bring them to a reclined position, which is going to remove all of the gravitational pull off of our spine and allow us a little more freedom of movement. So come onto your back and have your feet down. And the feet are going to be, if we can start off with the feet wider than hip distance, about the width of the mat, that's the best way. We want length, so even though we're down here and there's no compression, I want to just sort of maneuver my ribs a little further away from my pelvis, or move my pelvis a little further away from the rib cage there, so that I don't feel compressed. And my back could flatten, and my back could arch, but I'm going to leave it in a very neutral position, slightly curved away from the floor. Now, I'm going to tilt my legs toward my left side. And as I do this, the legs are folding inward, much like the twist we created earlier in the class. And the right side of my pelvis is brought upward a little bit. Now, the distance your legs travel and how much you allow the pelvis to lift is up to you. But the shoulders stay down, and that is a very nice and very subtle twist. It's a stretch in the front of the hip, too. And then we upwardly lift it, and then we go the other way. And the legs will fold in a certain amount, and then the left side of the pelvis will lift, again, a certain amount. So it's a very subtle twist. Yet it might be exactly where we need to begin if we've got some low back issues going on, or if there's an extreme tightness in the front of the hip that's prohibiting us. We might be left with this as our only choice of twist. All right, but then I'm going to come to center, and I'm going to bring my feet, my knees really close together, and I'm going to let them tilt. Now, this, I still keep my shoulders down. I can go further. My pelvis will lift up more, which twists my spine more. And then we go the other way. So still it's just a knee rock, and I don't have the weight of my legs on my spine yet. It's fine. Great for those who are suffering from some back issues. We just reduce the amount of weight, of resistance, and it lets us work at a lighter level. And then I'm going to create emphasis just by crossing my left knee over my right. And as I go back and forth now, I've got a binding position, which pulls more into the side of the pelvis, or the weight of my leg that's crossed over pulls more, again, side of the pelvis. And so that's a rather nice rocking action. Then center, right leg crossed over left. We rock back and forth. And you may feel that these are just right for you, or you may feel like, well, they're too subtle. I want something that's a little greater. And that's fine. I'm going to uncross. I'm going to bring my knees into the chest. Now, in this twist, I've got the weight of the legs. They're going to pull. And I've got to keep my shoulders down. I want one layer of stability, so the shoulders are going to be it. And as I send my knees toward the left, I just balance all against the left hip. And then I send my knees to the right, and I balance against the right hip. And so as I'm first doing this, I'm just making sure I can move below the waist without pulling too much above the waist. And then once I'm balanced on the left hip again, I just sort of reach my legs out. Oh, and that makes it harder, right? Because I don't want my shoulder to lift up. And so I just, a little bit of a reach, and I've lengthened that leverage action, that longer reach of the legs. I don't want my legs coming all the way down, because there's a distance that you can go that everything stops really being a challenge. You want to find the challenge, the appropriate challenge for you. So just go back and forth with a challenge position. Good. Or we can also create challenge by creating that bind again. I'll cross my left over my right. First, I'm just getting used to the action itself, keeping my shoulders down as I pivot side to side. But then I pivot and I reach my legs outward, and that's going to create more challenge. And I have to go very low toward the floor. I want to find just the right amount of challenge that I can hold my shoulders down, so I get just the right amount of difficulty that I can work with it without it being too extreme. Good. All right. Uncross. Now let's create one more twist. We're going to stretch that left leg out straight. Okay? And we're going to hold our right leg in. We're going to press the back of our left leg down and flatten our back right now as we pull our right leg in. Now that's going to help us open the front of our hip. But we're also going to open the back of our right leg just by putting our hands into the back of the leg and straightening a little bit. You see my leg's still close to the chest. I didn't let it fall away. So I'm pulling inward and getting some stretch in the back of the leg and the front of the hip at the same time. Good. Now I bend my right leg a little, take my arms out to the side. My right leg is free to straighten or bend at any time. Shoulders pressing down, I'm going to take my leg across my body. Now I may have to bend my knee a lot to allow the right side of my pelvis to come up any at all. I keep my right shoulder down. And then once I'm satisfyingly across, left leg still reaching, shoulders pressing down, I can straighten or bend, move the knee closer to my chest or further away from my chest. All sorts of additions. And if I want to turn my head toward the right and get an alternate stretch in my neck that's different from the stretch I'm having in the lower back and pelvis. Take a deep breath in. Exhaling, head comes back to neutral, bend the right knee, bring it back, and now we'll switch. Right leg's going to go straight, and left leg's going to come in toward the chest. And we're going to pull this leg in as we press the back of our right knee down and reach the right leg away from us, opening up the front of our hip. So we create that stretch first, back flat, and that opens the front of our right hip. And then, hands into the back of the leg, pull it in, but let the left leg straighten a little bit so we get a nice little stretch in the back of our leg region. So hamstring stretch here, front of the hip flexor stretch there. And now we bend the knee, we take our arms out, we press the shoulders down. Remember, the right leg can straighten or bend, whatever amount is comfortable. And we start to bring it across our body toward the left. And this lifts the right side of our pelvis up. And we can bend our knee We can move it away or closer to the chest. We can straighten more. Shoulders press down. If we want to turn our head toward the left, we can. So we may create things differently, one side versus the other. It's very comfortable. Just create a reasonable, pleasant challenge. Take a deep inhale. Exhale, returning the head to center first. Bend the leg. Come back to center. And stretch both of your legs out. Now, adjust yourself so again, your spine feels long. So move the shoulders away from hip. Shimmy the pelvis one side longer, the other side longer. You know, you can take that shimmy all the way into the arms. You can take your arms alongside the head. And you can reach the right leg and right wrist away from each other. And the left leg and left wrist away from each other. And you can shimmy back and forth like that. And that's a nice elongation. Arms probably feel better coming down a little lower. You can turn the hips in and out several times with each other. Tighten up the seat muscles. Relax the seat muscles. One side at a time, both at the same time. You can inhale, arching your back more. Exhale, flattening the back, pulling in the belly. Those actions. And then we really want to release the neck and shoulders. Let's move the shoulders away from the head toward the hips, broadening the back of the chest, turning the arms so inside of the elbows and palms face the ceiling. And then one more little bit of rotation with your head, eyes closed. Lengthen through the front, and tuck the chin a moment. Come back to neutral, but then turn your head as far as you can in one direction. Head staying on the ground. You can shift it a little bit to get the ear a little closer if you feel that's comfortable. And then taking the head back to center, turning the other direction. Just noticing. We sometimes don't turn our head completely, so we don't know that we're missing anything until it's been there for quite some time. So go back and forth with those a little bit, but you'll end up with your head right in center. Exhaling, go limp. Inhale, fill up. Fill into your belly, into your sides, into your lower back and upper back, shoulder blades and collarbones. Just fill, 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 fill. And then exhale, slowly, slowly release. Deep inhales and slow exhales again and again. And that action, that relaxation, that ceasing of the control is very important for us. To just gain a moment, to let the nervous system calm down in the best way possible. Deep inhales and slow exhales. The easiest breath for us is one that has an equal duration of inhale to exhale. And that's one that studies have shown provides plenty of benefit. So create that. Your inhale and your exhale even. But as you feel ready for it, you can begin to move ever so slightly. Allow first just a little bit of wiggle in the fingers and toes. And be gradual. And then when it seems easier to move, wrists and ankles, shoulders and hips, arms and legs and chest. Slowly move until the stretches seem to bring you to a point that you want to move more. And use those movements to gradually come to your side and come up into seated position whenever you're ready.